Lesson 2 Summarize. How a false memory can be created. Psychological research has shown various false memories are created, such as through the power of suggestion or through vivid imagination. Now scientists studying imagination have found that people who watched a video of someone else doing a simple action often didn't remember and thought they had done it themselves when asked about it 2 weeks later. This is a completely new type of false memory, says Gerald Ichterhoff, a psychology professor at the University of Munster in Germany and co-author of the paper published in the September issue of the journal Psychological Science. This is a false memory from just observing someone, he says. Psychologist Daniel Shatter of Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, who has edited a book on false memories, says, "It sounds like an extension of earlier work that has shown imagining you'd done something can result in false memories." Richard Nixon defends himself. "I come before you tonight as a candidate for the vice presidency and as a man whose honesty and integrity been questioned. Now, the usual political thing to do when charges are made against you is to either ignore them or to deny them without giving details. I believe we've had enough of that in the United States, particularly with the present administration in Washington, D.C. To me, the office of the Vice Presidency of the United States is a great office, and I feel that the people have got to have confidence in the integrity of the men who run for that office and who might obtain it. I have a theory, too, that the best and only answer to a smear or to an honest misunderstanding of the facts is to tell the truth. And that's why I'm here tonight. I want to tell you my side of the case. I'm sure that you have read the charge, and you've heard it, that I, Senator Nixon, took $18,000 from a group of my supporters. The question is, was it morally wrong? I say that it was morally wrong if any of that $18,000 went to Senator Nixon, for my personal use. I say that it was morally wrong if it was secretly given and secretly handled. And I say that it was morally wrong if any of the contributors got special favors for the contributions that they made. And now to answer those questions, let me say this: not 1 cent of the $18,000 or any other money of that type ever went to me for my personal use. Every penny of it was used to pay for political expenses that I did not think should be charged to the taxpayers of the United States. It was not a secret fund. Do you think that when I or any other senator makes a political speech, has it printed, should charge the printing of that speech and the mailing of that speech to the taxpayers? Do you think, for example, when I or any other senator makes a trip to his home state to make a purely political speech, that the cost of that trip should be charged to the taxpayers? Do you think when a senator makes political broadcasts, that the expense of those broadcasts should be charged to the taxpayers? Well, I know what your answer is. It's the same answer that audiences give me whenever I discuss this particular problem. The answer is no. The taxpayers shouldn't be required to finance items which are not official business but which are primarily political business. Lesson 2 Summarize, Extra. False memory studies. In this study, as well as in several follow-up experiments, the majority of participants misremembered, thinking they had done something they had merely observed. Since the first research on 170 participants, findings have been replicated with almost 500 participants, he says. The paper details 3 different experiments in which participants read about or actually performed a series of simple actions, such as shaking a bottle or shuffling a deck of cards. Then they watched videos of someone else doing simple actions, some of which they had done and some they had only seen being done. 2 weeks later, they were asked which of as many as 30 actions they had done themselves. Researchers found the subjects were much more likely to falsely remember doing an action if they had watched someone else do it. Concerns about juvenile offenders. The number of minors being held in adult jails and prisons in this country has dropped substantially, according to a new study based on federal data. That's welcome news. Criminologists warn that juvenile offenders who are thrown in with adult prisoners are exposed to social pressures and develop personal contacts that make it far more likely that they will become career criminals than those held in juvenile facilities. The study, shows that the number of minors being held in adult facilities has decreased by 38% since 1999. Because of reductions in juvenile crime and arrests, among other factors, the number of children held in juvenile facilities also fell. Congress can consolidate these gains by using aid to impose a clear federal standard. To qualify for federal juvenile justice funds, states should have to certify that people under 18 are not being jailed as adults, except in cases involving heinous crimes like rape and murder. Unfortunately, not all of the new data is encouraging. States still seem to be holding in juvenile facilities a great many children who should instead be treated in therapeutic programs near their homes and families. Children with drug or alcohol problems should be in treatment programs, not juvenile lockups. Therapeutic programs can turn young lives around and reduce crime. The data also show that too many children are still being confined for minor offenses like truancy, which should be dealt with through community-based programs. Putting truants into juvenile facilities makes it more likely that they will repeatedly return to custody and become permanently entangled in the system. Congress, which tried to end this practice with the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act of 1974, should close the loophole that allows states to continue confining truants. Another cause for concern is the significant racial and ethnic disparities that show up in juvenile justice data. The decline in the juvenile custody rate was significantly greater for whites than for African Americans, who account for less than 15% of the youth population but nearly 40% of those in confinement. Let us continue. For 32 years Capitol Hill has been my home. I have shared many moments of pride with you, pride in the ability of the Congress of the United States to act, to meet any crisis, to distill from our differences strong programs of national action. An assassin's bullet has thrust upon me the awesome burden of the presidency. I am here today to say I need your help. I cannot bear this burden alone. I need the help of all Americans, and all America. This nation has experienced a profound shock, and in this critical moment, it is our duty, yours and mine, as the government of the United States, to do away with uncertainty and doubt and delay, and to show that we are capable of decisive action, that from the brutal loss of our leader we will derive not weakness, but strength, that we can and will act and act now. From this chamber of representative government, let all the world know and none misunderstand that I rededicate this government to the unswerving support of the United Nations, to the honorable and determined execution of our commitments to our allies, to the maintenance of military strength second to none, to the defense of the strength and the stability of the dollar, to the expansion of our foreign trade, to the reinforcement of our programs of mutual assistance and cooperation in Asia and Africa, and to our alliance for progress in this hemisphere. On the 20th day of January, in 1961, John F. Kennedy told his countrymen that our national work would not be finished in the first 1,000 days, nor in the life of our administration, nor even perhaps in our lifetime on this planet. But, he said, let us begin. Today in this moment of new resolve, I would say to all my fellow Americans, let us continue. Indifference. Over there, behind the black gates of Auschwitz, the most tragic of all prisoners were the Musulmaner, as they were called. Wrapped in their torn blankets, they would sit or lie on the ground, staring vacantly into space, unaware of who or where they were, strangers to their surroundings. They no longer felt pain, hunger, thirst. They feared nothing. They felt nothing. They were dead and did not know it. Rooted in our tradition, some of us felt that to be abandoned by humanity then was not the ultimate. We felt that to be abandoned by God was worse than to be punished by Him. In a way, to be indifferent to that suffering is what makes the human being inhuman. Indifference, after all, is more dangerous than anger and hatred. Anger can at times be creative. One writes a great poem, a great symphony. One does something special for the sake of humanity because one is angry at the injustice that one witnesses. But indifference is never creative. Even hatred at times may elicit a response. You fight it? You denounce it? You disarm it? Indifference elicits no response. Indifference is not a response. Indifference is not a beginning, it is an end. And, therefore, indifference is always the friend of the enemy, for it benefits the aggressor, never his victim, whose pain is magnified when he or she feels forgotten. The political prisoner in his cell, the hungry children, the homeless refugees, not to respond to their plight, not to relieve their solitude by offering them a spark of hope, is to exile them from human memory. And in denying their humanity, we betray our own. Indifference, then, is not only a sin, it is a punishment. And this is one of the most important lessons of this outgoing century's wide-ranging experiments in good and evil.